Well, let's do it. What the heck? Where would we be without the jazz? It, give it a second here. It does crack me up. My inability here to sort of realize, I think, that not everybody had a jazz musician in their house when they grew up. And it's much like, I think I've mentioned the gentleman that I went to college with from Texas who fervently believed, even despite evidence to the contrary, that everybody studied Texas history in the 4th grade. Maybe 5th grade. It cracks me up. Right, 4th grade is generally your local state history. Yeah. So that cracks me up. But I get that not everybody spent much of the 80s sort of lying on chairs waiting to be able to go home from whatever the concert with the jazz man was. But yeah, that's I did have that experience. So I think that's probably why, but let me unpack that one other sense, and this is all I'm trying to say. I realize when I say that jazz is freedom, that is a compilation, distillation of 20 years of thinking. And even when I was presented with that very same phrase 20 years before, it meant something completely different to me than it does now. And wherever you are at on that journey, I absolutely respect that. It's just, again, for me, it's this moment of being like, oh, that's interesting that's where you're at kind of thing. And it's not a deficit-based statement. It's just again, it's for me, it's my perspective. It's just funny that I would assume that everybody knows the jazz. But hey, here we're at. Okay, we are going to talk about Raymond, Wisconsin, and the school district and the sort of I want to use the word nutso situation there, and maybe there's a better one out there for that. But I would say that the situation is just plain nuts, and for several reasons. Because I really want to be clear that I don't necessarily want to invalidate the political opinions of either side or all the different sides or however they are. I don't want to invalidate the educational opinions. All of those things seem to me to be presumed legitimate, especially if you can back it up with some sort of reason why you think that. No problem. I want to distinguish that kind of the politics from the political games and the politics from the legal games. Okay, that I think so that's what I'm trying to strip away here from. And so with that preface in mind and that sort of acknowledgement here, I will say that I had been a supporter of Jeff Peterson before I had anything to do with this case, that I represented Jeff Peterson for a significant period of time in this case, and that when Jeff Peterson and company went to another attorney, and that attorney got to conduct this hearing, it absolutely broke my heart, but I'm a professional and understand that there will be more opportunities for rhetoric, if nothing else. So I just want to keep that in mind so that we understand, what my bias is. This is the tradition that we do here. I explain my bias before we go forward. So I've had the experience of advocating for Mr. Peterson in public, before the news, and in documents, all sorts of things. So it's going to be hard for me to strip away that commentary here, but at the same time, I think it's going to be sort of valuable for us to have this experience here where I've got a lot of the knowledge that I can share about what's going on generally, and then and from my perspective, and then we can watch this hearing together and sort of see how it unfolds. And you're going to see here that you're not going to hear a lot of criticism from me about this other attorney's work, or even Lori's work for that matter. Lori Lubinsky, the attorney for the district. And what I mean by criticism is destructive criticism. I think what you'll hear is constructive criticism. And you may say, man, oh my God, they were doing X, Y, and Z and Y. And there may be very good strategic reasons for doing that. Okay. And I'm not removed enough for this case that I can objectively say, hey, I would do that. I wouldn't do that. I know clearly that I don't know enough. And so that's one of the reasons here why I have to like back off and say, hey, and let's be honest, that there is some attorney camaraderie, and that's going to sort of limit how willing I am to criticize somebody. And a lot of that is going to be, again, because how am I to say what strategic decisions X, Y, and Z would have made at that point? And this case is still active. So I don't need even though I'm not a spokesperson, I'm not an advocate on behalf of Mr. Peterson anymore. I don't need to go that far in that. So you'll probably hear some self-limitation from me, and that's going to be okay. All right. Now, with all of that preamble, at what are we at? Several 6.5 minutes here. Thank you for sticking with me. Let's get to the headline, which is school district fires gay principal. Okay. Now, what do you need to know about this kind of school district? This school district is a K through 8 school district, one building school district, as we call that. There are not many of these systems left in Wisconsin, but there are several, and many of them are sort of located in the south east here, like Kenosha, Racine, that kind of area. We also have a notable one in Milwaukee area is the Nicolay, Glendale, Fox Point, like that. Okay, so here's the model. There is a Uber high school that has several different districts that all filter into that high school. Each of those districts will have, each of the sub-districts, we'll call them, will have a limited range of grades here. So in this, it's K, I don't know if it's K4 or whatever, through 8th grade. And then you leave that district and go into another one. So this is like the village of Raymond. I don't know what the political boundaries of that are, but I do know there's like Union Grove is one of them. Yorkville is another one of them, like that. So, and I think there's up to 5, but there may be more or less. The point is that there's a bunch of these sister communities, sister districts that all filter up, sub-districts that filter up into this main district here. So somebody who lives in Raymond, Wisconsin, whatever other political subdivisions they may live in, also have 2 school districts that they vote for. So one is going to be the Raymond School District, their local K through 8, and the other one is going to be the high school district. On both of those, they get to vote, and they have input over the school board, who supposedly has democratic control over the school district. Okay? And we say supposedly because, you know, as we have exposed here, we think that the attorneys for the school board, the school superintendent, and the Wisconsin Association of School Boards are more accurately described as controlling the school districts than the school board. But that's my opinion. So, and, you know, there's a lot of school boards. So, then backing up here, this is a due process hearing. What does that mean? That means if a school district wants to terminate the technical term is not terminate. This is a non-renewal of a administrator's contract. They have to do that by a certain time. I think it's in January. For a teacher, it's a certain time. I think it's in March. Yeah, I got it marked on my calendar. So if they don't non-renew them by that point, then it's assumed that they're automatically renewed for the next year. That's what the rule is. So, but if a person is being non-renewed, basically the reason they get to have a hearing on that, and for that reason they get to have a hearing on whether that hearing can be in closed. Not sorry, I'm gonna back up. They don't get to hearing on whether they get to decide. The employee gets to decide whether the hearing is going to be an open session or closed session. So I have a big case in federal court right now that has everything to do with what goes on in this sort of due process hearing, okay? And I like to call them due process / name clearing hearings, okay? For two reasons, because the federal courts use those terms, and here's why. A due process hearing can be something like, we are going to terminate you unless, okay? Now, you may not want to be terminated. Maybe you found another job, okay? Maybe you don't care. But the government may still be saying, we're terminating you, because they have to come up with a reason, right? Because it's the government, so they've got to have some due process reason. We're terminating you because you are a green lizard alien. Okay. Well, some people don't mind that they're being called green lizard aliens. Some people do mind that they're being called green lizard aliens. So the second purpose of this hearing is called name clearing. Okay, you've got a property interest in your good name. The government can't go around just besmirching your good name without some kind of due process. You've got the right to say, hey, you know, that's your side of the story, but here's my side of the story. I'm not a green lizard alien. Thank you very much. Where's my tail? Okay, so case closed. QED. That's where I would go. I mean, lizards must have tails, right? So therefore, okay. But so you've got this due process hearing. What that's the whole concept is. So let's say they are trying to terminate you because you're gay, okay? And let's say, and I want to be clear. The law in Wisconsin is that a school board can terminate somebody, a school district administrator, for any reason at all. Okay? Period. Now, that school district administrator may have some recourse if it's an illegal termination, but that occurs only after the school board makes its decision. Okay, and I need to like sort of unpack that for a second here. But the hearing, the purpose of the hearing is that we're going to watch is whether or not to terminate an employee. Okay, you will hear many people in the course to say this is at will, this is at will, this is at will. I don't believe that that's an accurate way to describe it. Okay, because it's not. It is fair to say that there are no other constraints on the school board members whose job it is to vote to either not renew or non-renew, other than democratic control. I'm going to say that again. The democratic control is the only constraint on whether or not the school board members, in this case or any other hearing in Wisconsin, decide whether or not they're going to terminate. And there's a Supreme Court case on that called Hortonville that has to do with just this issue. Went up to the federal Supreme Court, and basically the statute says that the school board is the one who decides it. So that's what it is. That's the due process there. Okay? It doesn't matter really how conflicted they are, if they're unconflicted or whatever. It matters. The check and balance on that is political control. Okay? So, for example, it's perfectly legal for a school board to go out and I'm going to say legal in the sense that they have the political right to make this decision. Okay? And I guess I can put that another way. I don't think that you could go to a circuit court and say that this school board violated the Wisconsin Fair Employment Law, or any other reason, public policy, wrongful discharge, whatever limitations on that you can think of. Therefore, you have to overturn this decision. I do not think that you can do that on that basis. I think you can, once the decision is made, I think then you can say, hey, federal court, this was an illegal decision for X, Y, and Z reason. Hey, Wisconsin, this was an legal decision for X, Y, and Z reason. But the decision itself could only be illegal if somebody voted secretly. No, there wasn't a quorum. There was a public meetings violation, something like that, that would make the decision in itself null and void. Okay, but the reasons for the decision, that can be anything or nothing at all. Okay, so you can see how that's very similar to at will, except in at will employment, there's no check and balance. And here there's a democratic check and balance, because this is what happened here. Some of the people, for example, on this school board are no longer on the school board. One of them already resigned. Okay, there's a recall campaign against at least 2 others that I know of. Okay, so that's when we're talking about democratic control. Then it's perfectly legitimate for these people to make this decision as they're making it, meaning it could be a complete kangaroo court. That's perfectly within the law here. So, if you think that's right, fine, but I'm just explaining to you the rules of the game here. That really, there are no rules. Okay, it's just it's the political law, when that's the jungle as far as I'm concerned. So, again, in another situation 2 years down the road, or in a school district that's not Raymond or whatever, school board members may think twice about trying to fire a school administrator, non-renew a school board administrator, when the public perceives that the purpose of that non-renewal is because the school administrator is gay. Okay? They might think twice all over the state now. And certainly you think they're going to think twice, even the people who, if they win the recall election, or in other words, are not recalled, they stay in place, the incumbents stay there, they're going to think twice. Okay? And that is supposed to be how the system is fixed there. Now, you say, what about Jeff Peterson? Well, he's got his own remedies and whatever else. But in terms of how the decision is made, the question really is there democratic control over what's going on? Meaning, first layer is, does the school board have control over the employees of the school district? Question number 1. Okay? Then question number 2 is, do the people of the district have control over the school board? Okay? Only if there's yes is the answer, an unequivocal answer to both of those questions, can you possibly say that you've got democratic control. Okay, so that's sort of what is going on here, and the background. There's a lot more, but I think we're going to start with this video. We're also going to say, hey, look, I'm trying to unedit this as much as possible. This is from a Facebook video. I supplied as much video equipment as you could possibly imagine. This was all taken from an iPhone. Okay, that's how it went. So I've done as much as I can to play with the volume, denoise, all that kind of stuff, but it is what it is, and it's the flavor of the school board meeting. So I've tried to just take out, I've tried to enhance the audio only so that you can hear what's going on, but otherwise we sort of intend to play the entire thing. There's going to be some section, the entire thing's 7 hours long. There's going to be some section where they go out for like an hour and a half to decide. We'll cut that out. But other than that, we're going to stay as true to the whole experience as we possibly can. Okay? So I hope that has been enough of an introduction over sort of what's at stake here. Again, I guess I didn't say that, but the board is going to say that Mr. Peterson is a bad employee. He was on a PIP and he did not a performance improvement plan. It's not clear to me ever why he was on a performance improvement plan, but it wasn't working out. And for some reason he refuses to acknowledge that it's not working out. So he's a bad employee. Um, that's, I mean, maybe it's not being fair, but that's what I got out of it from what I recall. And then the defense is that's kind of balderdash, and that the real reason is because you have a animosity towards homosexuals. You believe that he's homosexual, and that you're retaliating against him because of that. And we'll get into, I think, a lot more on that subject in later commentary videos here, but hopefully at 20-some minutes, you've got enough of an introduction to understand what's going on and what's at stake. The non-renewal of a principal here at a due process hearing. All right, thanks for sticking with me and us. We'll keep you informed.